Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the October 19th meeting of the Revere City Council Zoning Subcommittee. I am the chairman, Stephen Reardon. We also have with us this evening Councilor Ganasso, Councilor Novoselsky is on his way, and Councilor Zambudo, who are members of the subcommittee as well. We have one matter before us this evening, and that is entitled CZ-15-02, which is a requested amendment to the zoning map of the city of Revere for the area known as American Legion Highway for certain parcels of land, changing the zoning from GB general business to highway business on parcels north and south of the highway, which are enumerated in the proposal, which was presented at a public hearing already earlier, late in the late part of the summer or mid part of the summer. So at this point, we would like to take testimony from anyone interested in speaking on it. So I'd invite anybody who is interested in speaking on it before the council's address it to go to the podium and state your name and address in no particular order.
Jamie Russo, 72 Squire Road, Revere.
Mr. Russo?
I'm just a bit unclear as to how we left the neighborhood meeting the other night, as to, based on what we saw from the residents, that they had a clear issue with height. I know that Councilor Zambudo had in the past proposed an amendment to the change, but I don't know if that's been rewritten. And just trying to get an update as to where we stand.
Well, I guess we stand right now. What's before us is the zoning amendment. You're fully aware of that. Your comments probably should be addressed to that, but if you care to address your comments to anything that happened at the public meeting or what you anticipate will be a proposed amendment, then I think you should do that as well.
Well, like I said, I'm a bit unsure as to what the proposed amendment was, but based on the hearing that we had, or the neighborhood meeting that we had, it seemed like people were overwhelmingly opposed.
As a point of information, Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Zambudo.
I'll just clarify my amendment. My amendment was to strike the southerly side from this proposal and leave the northerly side in place. So without naming the parcels and boring everybody, that's what my amendment will be tonight, that I will propose again. So that's where I stand.
Thank you, Councilor Zambudo. So you're informed of that, and your comments about the 4 people that were at the public hearing that were against the height issue. If you have any other comments beyond that, please state them. And what are your feelings on on Councilor Zambudo's amendment?
I'm fine with that. I know that you know, on the southerly side, which is really only my concern, I don't have an issue with the northerly side, but it appears as though some of the abutters and some of the neighbors did have an issue with height, but I don't have an issue with it.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Ganasso?
Mr. Chairman, I, as promised, had and conducted a neighborhood meeting to which I sent out 70 invitations to various people in the area immediately impacted by it. I was kind of disappointed with the light turnout of in attendance that night, but so be it. And what Jamie Russo was referring to is that there was everybody appeared to be in favor of rezoning to highway business. The only opposition that was offered out was the height restriction, whereas in the write-up, as it appears before us tonight, it shows 70 feet. And the neighbors said they wouldn't be opposed to 50 feet. At that point, it was also suggested that maybe, and I'm not even certain that there was an awareness of what that meant, but maybe we have an asterisk beside the 50 feet and asterisk it with and further going to 70 feet by means of a special permit. That is up for debate. I'm not certain that, and I am fully aware that the height is a valuable tool in introducing a particular parcel of land for development as a hotel. And I know there would be certain hotels that would be discouraged by coming forward with a proposal based on the iffy chance of maybe not getting the special permit to allow it to go to 70 feet. That being said, I'm representative of the people's wishes. Again, I wish more were in attendance to offer their concerns and their criticism. I was looking forward that evening to, and I'm not a naysaying type of person. I was looking for criticism, but constructive criticism. I was looking for something that was going to be realistically looking at what we have before us. What we have before us is a large parcel of land which now houses a car wash. And there were several people across the highway and on this side of the highway that didn't want the car wash. So, and they would be very pleased to see it go. And I know, in representing the people for several years, that they certainly don't want a restaurant, whereas you would get displacing of trash that would lead to a rodent situation. So we have to tread about this as professional as we can in having an awareness of the thoughts of the people. It's hard for me to convey their message. I heard three opinions from 3 area residents. I didn't even receive a call saying I'm against anything or for something. So that kind of takes me back a bit, because this hasn't been just hidden in a shelf. This has been brought out. We had a public hearing on it a month or so ago. We had a contested conversation that night. And so I don't understand for the lack of input as to what's taken place here, but I certainly will try to share the few people that were there, and I'm very aware of what their thoughts were. And I want to share that with the rest of the council, and we go from there. I mean, obviously, we're charged with a responsibility to doing what's best for our city. And so I leave that out to the body to decide. I can only convey my thoughts as the ward council representing the immediate area to which we impacted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. I would, at this point, prefer to entertain any more public comment at this point before I turn it over to the other city councils. So if no one else has a public comment on this, then I shall turn it over to Councilor Zambudo. But however, I would like to add a couple of things which are kind of my sua sponte ground rules here. If you, I understand Councilor Zambudo is going to offer an amendment to this motion and then present it to the city council. I would like to have a vote on both issues as they stand right now, the amendment proposed by the city planner as it stands, and also Councilor Zambudo's, if that's okay. And lastly, Councilor Guanasso, if you think it appropriate to add an amendment to the motion to allow 70 feet by special permit, I would suggest you do so. Frankly, your point is well taken, and I think the city planner's point was well taken, that the chances of us actually getting a proposal for a hotel of only 5 stories is greatly diminished. And I also should make comment on the fact that the city planner suggested that any issues with shadows or anything like that could be addressed by the placement of the building as opposed to the residential areas, which I think would generally satisfy it. And lastly, I would like to add that, you know, if we have this issue not resolved in its entirety this evening, in other words, allow changes to be made later on, we're only inviting this discussion to go on one more time, and perhaps to the detriment of any proposal that would be in consonance with the highway business district. So I'll turn it over to Councilor Zambudo at this point.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to be clear about my opinion on the public meeting we had with the residents, and in my theme of always telling the truth, Truth be told, I told the residents, and I'll tell everybody that's watching on TV and in the audience here tonight, that I am for the proposal on the northerly side because there's an interest for a hotel there. And I think that's absolutely the best use we could ever have for that parcel of land. That being said, I would not support anything less than a by right 7-story hotel because I want a flag on that hotel. I don't want a motel, and I don't want a chance of never getting anything on there. That's a lesson in futility. If we're going to pass something and put a restriction on it, it defeats the purpose. So my position is, one, I want to strike, obviously strike the southerly side from the proposal, and two, that as I told the neighbors, I can't support reducing the height or putting a height restriction because it defeats the purpose of the proposal. So that's where I stand. I stand for the only change is my amendment, and I stand for the full proposal to allow a hotel by right on highway business of up to 7 stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zambuto. As I understand, Councilor Novoselsky has nothing to say on this. Let me just offer my comments. First of all, we're not making these decisions in a vacuum this evening. In particular, we're about to have a public hearing on a very, very important proposal to limit the large-scale residential development for 2 years going forward in the city. But I think it's important that we take cognizance of the real issue, or one of the real issues in that proposal as regards this proposal. We have a zone, an area on Lee Burbank Highway, which is essentially, for all intent and purposes, highway business as it stands right now. It's not zoned that way, but as time went on, as time developed, as our neighborhoods kind of retreated from that area, and as the highway became more of a highway rather than a roadway, it became more amenable to commercial and retail development. One of the big issues we have with our residential versus commercial development issue that we're about to face is that we have precious little commercial land. Our commercial property is zoned at twice the rate as residential land, and it uses far, far fewer resources, including dependence on our school system, in our public safety issues, et cetera. You could go through a long list of reasons why commercial development needs to be the focus of our future development. This proposal is a step in the right direction from my viewpoint. Not only the northern side, but also the southern side. That stretch of highway is now, for all intents and purposes, a commercial zone, and it ought to be zoned such. It ought to be, residential development ought to be eliminated from that stretch of land permanently. While I'm not particularly in favor, generally speaking, of not going forward with a complete revamping of our zoning, in this case and in this particular area, this is the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do from the perspective of the way our city has developed, and it's the right thing to do in respect to the fact that we need to take cognizance, we need to take control of our residential development going forward. So at this point, I would ask the subcommittee to offer, perhaps Councilor Zambuto would like to offer his amendment first, and we can take a vote to report this out either favorably or unfavorably to the City Council
Okay, well,
as a whole for the 6 o'clock meeting.
right. Well, my amendment is, as I stated, to eliminate the southerly side from this proposal and have the proposal go forward as is for the northerly side. And as is means the full zoning change, which does not restrict the hotel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zambuto. So I think what we'll do here is take a roll call of the subcommittee. Councilor Ganasso on the amended.
Well, he's made an amendment, and I was waiting for the conclusion of it, and I have an amendment also that I'd like to submit.
Well, let's do with his first, and then we can do with yours if you want.
Because half in favor of one thing and I'm not
Okay.
in favor of the other, so how do I mix that up?
All right, if you'd further amend,
I
further
think my
amend his-
modification would come in.
Does it
and then-
include his modification?
In the height restriction.
No, does it include his modification to eliminate the south side?
It does. I
It
don't,
does.
I'm all, that's fine with me.
All right, so why don't you propose your amendment as well?
I would like the same amendment that offered, modified by Councilor Zambudo, with the restriction being that where it says 70 feet, to be placed 50 feet with, and an asterisk beside it with, by special permit to go to 70 feet.
All right, that's a different proposal than Councilor Zambudo's entirely, well, not entirely, but for all intents and
Just-
purposes. So let's vote on
That's why I
Councilor
asked to be
Zambudo. Let's
placed
vote on
second.
Councilor Zambudo's amendment first.
Fine?
And your vote?
No.
Councilor Zambudo? I was going to come back this way, if it's okay with you.
Yes.
Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
I vote no. That's a tie. Councilor Ganas would like to make an amended motion.
On the substitute amended motion, I'd like, where it's read 70 feet, I'd like to be put in place 50 feet with an asterisk to go to 70 feet by special permit,
As well as the restriction to the
as
northern
well as the
south.
restrictions to the southerly side of elimination of that
Are we
proportion.
clear on Councilor Ganasso's amendment? You also? Councilor Ganasso?
Yes.
Zambudo? Councilor Zambudo?
No.
Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
And Councilor Reardon votes no. So we're not going to vote this out in any way, shape, or form, and any recommendation at this point to the full city council, because we have a deadlock. I think that's the only fair thing to say about it. And, but however, the opportunity to offer both amendments shall be preserved, obviously, at the full city council meeting at 6 o'clock. And you'll have an opportunity, hopefully, at the discretion of the president to make your comments to the full city council. Is that okay with everybody? Very good. So this concludes our zoning subcommittee committee meeting for October 19th. We'll have another meeting probably coming up at some point. Thank you.